morning and welcome back to Brodeur Land. This is our final day. We are at the end of week 6, day 5. This is it, guys. Your last assignment of the school year. It is May 1st. We're ready to wrap things up, get this assignment in the books, get your 100, and let's get into summer vacation. But before we do that, we need to talk about today's lesson and make sure you have all the tools you need to finish these. I think you have 3 questions today and wrap up everything. And remember, the moment you finish, turn that sucker in so we can get a grade and you can check be done with math. So let's talk about what today's assignment is. So today we're going to identify 2 shapes that are similar, and if their corresponding sides are proportional and their corresponding angles are equal. So what that sounds like, and hopefully you got from our learning intention, is today we're going to be looking at similar figures. I kind of mentioned it a little bit with dilation yesterday, but today we're going to dive a little bit more into it. So let's come over here and let's figure out what we have to do for our 3 questions we got. So first, we're going to get away from the problems for a second. We're going to go over to what similar figures are. So similar figures, we got 2 images right here of triangles. And one definition for similar figures is the same shape, but not the same size. So clearly, we got triangles right here. They look very similar in the sense that they're the same type of triangle. The difference is the top one is definitely a lot larger than the bottom one. Second, corresponding angles are equal. Now, I know some people might be thinking, what is corresponding? I remember learning with parallel lines and corresponding angles. What does that have to do with triangles right here? So this is what it has to do with triangles. Let's take a look at these angles I already have. So what corresponding means is also matching. These angles right here are matching angles. So what we're going to look at today, now of course similar figures can get a little bit more challenging, but today we're just looking at basics of similarity. We're going to look at how the shapes are positioned the same. They're both going up with a top corner right there. And these 2 angles are going to be my matching angles, which mean they're corresponding. And what they also mean is that these angles are going to be equal. For example, let's say this angle was 30 degrees. That would also mean that this angle would also be 30 degrees because with similar figures, their matching angles are equal. For example, let's say I went up here and said that this one was 90 degrees. That would also mean that this matching or corresponding angle down here would be 90 degrees, and so on. Like these 2 angles would also be equal. Now what's weird though is, let's talk about the sides. Corresponding sides are proportional. Now what exactly does that mean? So I'm going to talk about what we need to focus on for 8th grade at the moment. Of course, when you get to high school, they will add to it a little bit more. And if we had more time, we would go more in depth. But for today, corresponding sides are going to be the sides that are the matching sides. For example, A and D right here are matching sides. B and E are corresponding or matching sides, and C and F are corresponding and matching sides. The problem though is A and D are not the same size. So that's why we can't say they're equal like the angles. So A and D are proportional. Now what exactly do we do with proportion? What does that mean? So an easy way is looking at this right here. This is going to be our formula we use with sides to help find scale factor and also to help us do our examples over here. Now, how do you set up these? And especially when we jump into these in a little bit, because we're really going to be using the sides. Let's call this one the top, and let's call this one the bottom. Usually I figure out I just pick a shape to be the top one and a shape to be the bottom one. I just picked this one because clearly it's on the top, and this one's on the bottom. But if you wanted to switch them, you could. Now, why I counted one as the top and one as the bottom is that helps me set this up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write a, well, I guess before I do that, I usually write my little fractions. You see how all these are fractions, and all of your fractions you set up are going to be equal because that's why they're proportional. Now, we said all these are going to go on the top. So I'm just going to do A, B, C. They're all going to be on the top of my fraction, just like what I had here. But notice, how do we get the letters that are underneath? Those are our corresponding sides. So what was corresponding with A? D was, because they are matching sides. So I'm going to put D with A. B corresponds with E, so E is going to go on the bottom. And C corresponds with F. Now, why is it important that you set up these fractions? Well, one, you're going to see in a second when we do some problems in just a little bit. But two, this also helps us find our scale factor. If I divided one of these fractions, that would give me my scale factor. For example, if you go back to dilation, what you multiplied to get one triangle to be as large as the other, or vice versa. But today we're not going to get so bogged down in that. We're going to talk about more about solving and finding missing sides. So let's dive into this. Let's get away from kind of the definitions and let's talk about how can we use this, because that's the most important thing today, so we can wrap things up. So first, let's take a look right here. The following triangles are similar. Find the missing side length. What's important is them telling us that these triangles are similar, because that means corresponding angles are equal or congruent, and then corresponding sides are proportional, and we can use this to help us find our missing sides. Now, I already know that I need to find the question mark right here, which means I need to use the question mark and the side that corresponds with this question mark. Well, the side that corresponds with the question mark would be 10. Now, before I figure out what I need to do, I need to figure out which one is going to be my top figure and which one's going to be my bottom. I'm just going to call this one the top one and this one the bottom one. If you want it to be different and change it, that's fine. You'll still get the same answer. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to pick 10. We said that one was going to be on the top. And then the question mark is going to go on the bottom. Notice I teamed together the corresponding sides, just like how over here we teamed A and D together, and B and E, and so on. Now, we only have to pick one more side. You don't have to use 3 fractions on here. You only have to use 2. So I picked 10 and question mark for one, because I have to use those because I'm solving for my question mark. The second thing I have to do is figure out, do I want to use 14 and 7 or do I want to use 8 and 4? It really does not matter. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to pick 8 and 4 because they're smaller numbers, but it's up to you. Now, this one I counted as my top figure, which means 8 is going to go on top and my corresponding side 4 is going to go on the bottom. Okay? So we stop right here. You do not need to do equals 14 and 7. You just need 2, because from here we have enough information now to solve for the question mark. Now, some people might remember cross multiplication maybe from 7th grade or earlier. This is what we're going to do here. Cross multiplication means you're going to multiply diagonally. So I'm going to go 10 times 4 and get 40. And then I'm going to multiply 8 and the question mark and get 8 question mark, and then of course put equals in between those two. All right, now some people might say this is kind of weird, like I'm used to having like an X or something like that. If that bothers you, then just change it to an X or a variable if that helps you, if that makes you feel a little bit better. And then all we got to do is solve for X. So we'll divide by 8 right there. That gives me 5, so X equals 5, or our question mark equals 5, and boom, we got it. Now, this is everything you needed to do for this question. I believe this is your second question, so if you follow me and write down your work, boom, we already did one question.
Mr. Brodeur,
Yep.
could you check your work by plugging those in to make sure those fractions are equal to each other?
Yes, and that's exactly where I was about to go to, because I skipped the first question today that says just find the scale factor. And I wanted to talk about finding the scale factor really quick just to kind of answer that question. But two, like you said, can we check our work? We can. For example, if I plug this into here, that would be 10 over 5, right? And that equals 2 if I divided those two. Now, what we're hoping is 8 and 4 is also the same. If I divide 8 by 4, that gives me 2. And so since both of those equal the same, since both of those fractions equal the same number, that means we have the right answer. Also, this number is a scale factor. And in the first question that I skipped over for right now, because I feel like these were more important, it asks you to find the scale factor. So this would be a way you could find the scale factor, is just taking your two numbers and dividing them, your two corresponding sides. So this is a way you could find your scale factor as well. Now, let's dive into the last one. Now, this one I'm going to kind of get situated for you, but I'm going to let you wrap it up and then finish the first question as well. So this is your third question. Now, on this one, they give you A and B. Instead of saying top and bottom, they just used A and B, and that's fine because they kind of say what A and B is down here. Now it says the scale factor, the following figures are similar, solve for x. So we got to solve for this x right here. The scale factor from A to B. What this means, they wrote like A to B like this. All right. What this is I could rewrite that as a fraction as 5 over 6, which is what we need. We need a fraction, correct? But now notice they said from A to B. 5 was on the A side, 6 was on the B side. So what this is saying is we need A on top and B on the bottom. So A becomes our top one and B becomes our bottom one. So when I want to find our corresponding sides right here, I'm going to do 30 on the top since A was first. And B, we had 3x. I'm going to write that on the bottom like so. I didn't have to use any other sides because they gave me the scale factor to use here. This one up here, they didn't give me the scale factor. So that's why I used corresponding sides instead there. Now, from here on out, you're going to pretty much do the same thing we did up here. We're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do 5 times 3 gives me 15x equals, multiply 6 and 30, and that gives me 180. And I'm going to let you finish things off here. Just divide by your 15, solve for x, get things situated. And then remember, also finish your other question as well. So just really, let's recap really quick. So we did, this is problem number 2 you have to complete. This is problem number 3. Use this formula. I know there's 3 fractions here, but you only need to set up 2 in order to solve things. So I hope this helps answer questions on our last day. We had similarities, but guys, remember, this is it. Once you're done with this day, you can check this off, turn in everything, and please make sure you go back and see, is there any other assignments I need to check in? Maybe I'm done with week 6, but I forgot to finish week 3, or I forgot to finish week 4. Make sure you have everything turned in, because on May 15th, we are wrapping up everything. Grades are final, so the quicker you're done, the quicker you can get to summer vacation, the quicker you can check off and be done with the school year. But your teachers are here for you. We want to make sure you finish strong. So send us questions. Let us know if you have any questions. But until next time, Brodeur out. Peace.